Hi, we're Diamond and Silk, and we love the Naked Truth Report.
Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
Hi, welcome to the Naked Truth Report. I said I was going to get a new intro. Gosh, why haven't I done that? Lazy, forgetting about it, procrastinating. Happy Father's Day. I hate to think about it because I miss my father so much. I think about him all the time. It makes me kind of sad. Yes, I got to admit it. Missing him. We have a guest today. Yes, it's a good thing. I want to talk about the fact, you know what? Let me say this. Those folks on the left, those left-wing loonies, those left-wing ignoramuses, they don't understand ideologies, political ideologies. They don't know political ideologies. That's the problem. On the one hand, and let me tell you, when you study American history, you begin to get a better understanding of this idea of political ideology and how people, the citizens of those countries, have been adversely impacted by those ideologies. Yes, I'm still taking my course at Hillsdale College. You guys should enroll too. They're free. There's no excuse not to know, get information that is free. Let's see. So we have on the one hand tyranny and dictatorships and totalitarianism and fascism. You know, fascism, wasn't that, Mussolini in Italy. Yes, that's what we were fighting in World War II, the fascism of Mussolini in Italy. Militarism is what Japan was also doing in World War II. Totalitarianism, tyranny. Oh, and then what? The main one is communism. Hello? Yes. So the issue is, and then that's on one hand, and then on the other hand, you have democracies. Yes, Republican government, where there's consent by the people. This was a new and novel concept. There was Republican governments in ancient Greece and Rome, yes, but the idea of a Republican government being there's consent of the governed to be governed by the government or something like that. I didn't say it right. But this is in fact, our Constitution, we've been living under this Constitution for 237 years. This is the longest Constitution that any country, because other countries, their constitutions come and go. They have political strife, they have economic strife, they have problems. Problems are in every country. Life is nuanced. It's not black and white. This is the thing that the left keeps trying to do. They keep trying to tell us that life is either A or B. It's black or white. It's that. It's stark like that. No, life is nuanced. It's in the middle. Things are in the middle, it's sort of gray. It has edges. It's smudging here and smudging there. So what was I saying? That, let's see. I forgot it. I lost it that fast. But communism, that's what I want. We were fighting communism. The Cold War, we were fighting communism. Winston Churchill made a speech after World War II talking about the Iron Curtain. That after we fought, Stalin was an ally in World War II. But after the World War II, problems began to seep into the country because he was a communist dictator. Another thing I want to say is this. That life is competitive. Life and living is competitive. Individual versus individual, group versus group, country versus country. This is the nature of things. And the left doesn't seem to have a grip on this notion. They don't seem to understand it. Why? Because they don't study history. They don't take it seriously, or they don't care. And the idea that folks will come into this country as first-generation Americans like Kamala Harris or Ilmar Omar or Rashida Tlaib, first-generation Americans coming from where? Somalia, Iran is Rashida Tlaib from Iran? Yes, I think. Let's see, and Kamala Harris' parents were from India. So we don't look to Somalia as a model democracy. We don't look to Iran as a model where we would want to live under. Is Iran a theocracy? We wouldn't want to live under this situation in Iran. We wouldn't want to live in India. Okay? After we became a world power after World War II. And other countries looked to America as a shining, what is it? The shining city on the hill, as a beacon. And this is why other individuals, this is why our southern border is chock full of people trying to get in. They'll do anything. Let me tell you, I've said it before, that Immigration Act of 1965 was a huge mistake, just like gay marriage was a huge mistake. Everything with the left, everything with the Democratic Party is a slippery slope. What is that data point? I think for every 10% increase in immigration, Black America loses 1/2 of 1% of their wealth. Because these people are coming in and supplanting Black Americans. They're suppressing all Americans. They're suppressing wages, yes, right? But what I want to bring my guest on because we want to talk about, this is an important issue. This is the issue. I've said there's three. Getting to the bottom of the coronavirus, the origins and how it has, what it has done to the people, what it has done to us, what it has done to the world. Getting to the bottom of this is important. And getting to the bottom of the 2020 election. Let me tell you, folks, Republicans, most of them that I hear on the TV and on the radio, they're talking like, listen, Republicans are going to win in 2022. How? How are they going to win if they don't fix these machines, okay? Mike Lindell told us what was going down with that. He has the scientific evidence, the absolute proof that there were votes that were switched from Trump to Biden, and about 60% of them were done by hacking from China. So China has been screwing around with the American people. China is competing with the American people. Why? Because life is competitive. Country versus country. You look at history and that's all it's been about. Life is competitive. China wants to be a world power. He's trying to dominate. She's trying to dominate the world. And now we're finding out that, we know with 100% certainty that the virus was released from the Wuhan lab and it was man-made. Yes, we know that. Welcome, Dr. Wen Chen, to the Naked Truth Report.
Hello, Kathleen. I'm glad to be here again.
Thank you. So we know with 100% certainty that the coronavirus was with 100% certainty, we know that this virus was released from the Wuhan lab. Is that correct?
Well, I would say you can never get confirmation from China. And it's highly likely that it's from the lab because, number one, as we mentioned at the very beginning, last year, people in Wuhan, they do not eat bats. And there are not much bats in Wuhan. And the only place that could have bats, live bats or bat virus, is this lab. And unfortunately, 1 year ago, all of this was canceled in our media. We were not allowed to talk about it. And all of a sudden, we have to all keep our mouths shut. And now I think people start to talk about it because some information got leaked out and people became curious and some scientists dare to question this. But unfortunately, I just feel, personally, we may never able to get a confirmation, either scientifically or from the Chinese government because, number one, the Chinese government will never allow you to go into the lab. To see what happened. Never. They already closed the lab's database, and they removed quite a few articles from the website, and even a WHO went there, can't get anything. And number two, within the scientific field, I would say most of the virologists, they do not want to admit this is true, because if that's the case, that means that career will be done. it would be very hard for them to get future funding to support their research.
Now, are you familiar with the Chinese virologist Dr. Lin Ming? Are you familiar with her?
You mean like a Yan Limang,
Say
the
that
one who
again.
escaped, the one who escaped from China?
Yes, she's been very vocal about it.
Yeah. She has been very vocal about it, but unfortunately, the mainstream media did not accept her credibility. And I think now it's different because I think DIA got some other information from another official of China who defected a few months ago. I believe that was the reason the media turned the direction about this. Or maybe they purposely covered it up last year because they want to blame Trump for the pandemic and they don't want to focus on China. Now, maybe the mainstream media wanted to do something to gain back their credibility.
Well, I mean, what better example to see how deleterious, destructive, and dangerous the administrative state is, bureaucrats are. The WHO, the NIH, they've been lying to the American people, to the world. This is dangerous.
Exactly.
This is very dangerous.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, this is just shocking. Like the whole process, especially after Fauci's emails leaked. It's they should be they are publicly available. But media expose their email, and we read some of these contents. We realized they have been lying about this from the beginning, because they have been funding the gain-of-function coronavirus research through University of North Carolina and collaborated with the Wuhan Virus Lab. And it has been a dangerous practice for years, but they continue to do this for the money. And you see there's a network of scientists, they decide what to say and what is a consensus. And it's actually just a small group of scientists in this whole network. They control the mainstream voice in scientific community. And because the whole field of research, we rely on grant application. So nobody wants to say something against the lead of NIH or Dr. Fauci. Just very unfortunate. Nobody dare to challenge what they say, because if any scientist say something, his or her own career would be in danger because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, unfortunately, the very sad reality we're facing. And also the scientific journals, they have been endorsing China, endorsing the Wuhan Virus Lab. They have been publishing articles supporting that the virus came from a natural origin or the virus is not from the lab, even though they know clearly that there's no way you can exclude the possibility that the virus did not come from the lab, because unless you know where the virus came from, how could you rule out the possibility, right?
Mm-hmm. And
the SARS virus has been escaped from quite a few labs in China, in other countries. And in 2004, SARS-1, the original SARS virus, escaped a lab in Beijing twice. And that's all history. It all happened in the past, and how could you guarantee that it did not come from this lab this time? But through this whole year, we see all these scientific media's publication, and I was shocked to find out the corruption of this whole network, and they influence the whole media, because everyone say, "Oh, scientists said so, it must be the case." It's not from the lab.
Yeah, they say follow the science. Even Fauci said something to the effect that you don't believe in science if you don't believe me, or something like that. And Biden recently said that China is really trying hard to be transparent. Can you imagine? So exactly, it's laughable. So talk to me why a communist regime will not be transparent, has never been transparent.
They will never be transparent because whether they know this is from the lab or not know this from the lab, definitely they covered up the virus in the early pandemic. they took the opportunity, they took advantage of this pandemic to sell their PPE all over the world. That we already talked last year, and now they're selling their vaccine. They're trying to control other countries by selling vaccines to them. But the Chinese vaccine, they're pretty bad. Even Chinese people, they don't want to get them. And among those countries injected, who accepted vaccines from China, because for example, India, right? They have no other option but to buy from China, because only China provides such large quantities of vaccines. But those countries, after they were vaccinated, they have the confirmed case just quickly increased, and then they got into even worse situation. So either the vaccine is totally ineffective, or maybe the vaccine can cause people to be ill. We don't know, because there's no publication, there's no scientific publication about the effectiveness about the Chinese vaccine. Even Chinese authority admit that their vaccine do not prevent you from getting ill, they just prevent you from dying. That's what the Chinese authority said. And they almost took over Taiwan by preventing Taiwan to buy vaccine from other countries. They said, you must buy from China. Unfortunately, Japan and the U.S. sent Taiwan a total of about 4 million doses of vaccines. And Taiwan's own, their own vaccine should be ready in the summer. So now, Taiwan almost got into huge trouble of this.
But tell me, what do you think about the vaccine, the American vaccine? What are your thoughts on it?
I don't want to focus on this part because American vaccine definitely is much better than Chinese vaccine. That is for sure. But I think the what concerns me the most is how the Chinese government, they cover up the nature, the source of the original coronavirus. Last April, they blocked Chinese people from publishing any research article about the origin of the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. Any publication from China must be government approved before they can send to international journals. So that was a regulation starting in China last April 15th. So there's no way for you to see any true research about the origin of coronavirus. And the Chinese government have been using the pandemic to make profit from that and take advantage of this pandemic to force other countries to follow Chinese rules. You have to lock down, you have to use Chinese vaccine, and they have been using this. Just look at the recent report from CNN, right? They have been praising how great China is in making so many people getting vaccinated, because in China they force people to be vaccinated. Mm-hmm. You must be vaccine, otherwise you can be fired by your workplace. So of course, in a totalitarian regime, people were forced to be vaccinated, and that definitely is wrong, because people should have the freedom to choose whether they want to be vaccinated and which vaccine they want to get or when to be vaccinated. That's called the freedom, and people are responsible for their own health, right? If you get a vaccine, you're ill, who's going to cover the medical costs of your illness, or if you will get disabled or something like that, or died, who's going to compensate for that? But in China, all of this you can't ask. You just have to be vaccinated. And another recent incident I want to bring up is people always thought, China is doing really well in the pandemic because nobody gets ill, other than Wuhan's after Wuhan's incident. But actually, recently in Guangzhou, in Guangdong province, about 90% of population were already vaccinated. But now, the 4 major cities in Guangdong, they are locked down because they have many confirmed cases. The confirmed cases are increasing very quickly, and they actually stopped the vaccine procedure. They say, we have to stop vaccine people because when people come together to get vaccine, they can be spreading the virus. But think about people go together to get their COVID test. Still so many people. Why they stop vaccine more people? And obviously the authority knows very well in China that the vaccine is not effective, and it could be dangerous to people if they continue to vaccinate more people.
Oh, really? The vaccine in China could be dangerous, you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, the vaccine in China is really, I mean, if you look at the numbers, so many countries, they have been vaccinating their people with Chinese vaccine, but like it seemed like they have more and more confirmed case. The situation gets worse and worse after they got Chinese vaccine. While in other countries like Israel, when they get American vaccine, usually the situation gets better. But like those countries receiving Chinese vaccine, they became worse and worse. And you also have to know, like, the vaccine technology is different because China had been using technology like that was like 50 or 60 years ago. They killed the virus to make the vaccine. And those actually, number one, they're not effective. And number two, like if the virus were not fully killed, they could be dangerous. They could infect more people. And especially in China, the vaccine companies, they're all government-owned. So they don't have to take responsibility for their product. And actually in China, about 10 years ago, there was a huge scandal about like a vaccine company. They used expired vaccines and injected them to elementary school kids because in China, every elementary school kids need to be vaccinated. That's government regulation. And they have no choice where to get the vaccine because the school, the local government and school like distribute them. And as you know, all these companies were government-owned. Like they just distributed expired vaccines to the kids. And many children got ill, and some of them were disabled. And that was a huge scandal. So in the past 10 years, I believe, Chinese people have been traveling to Hong Kong. Those rich, wealthy Chinese families, they always went to Hong Kong to get vaccinated because they do not trust the vaccine quality in China. It's the same thing like when people go to Hong Kong to buy baby formula, right? Because there was a huge scandal of baby formula in China. They add chemicals to baby formula to pretend that they had enough protein, but actually they were poisonous. And about 6,000 Chinese babies got a kidney stone, kidney disease because of that. And since then, Chinese people always went to other countries to buy baby formula. And the vaccine scandal is like several years after that. And since then, Chinese people always travel to Hong Kong to be vaccinated or other countries to be vaccinated. And now the COVID vaccine is probably even worse because, it's a huge money-making business. And think about all these companies. They have no competition, no money, no media to monitor them. And they can do whatever they want.
What's going
all
on?
Of these affect.
What's going on now exactly between Hong Kong and China, politically?
Well, China is like quickly turning Hong Kong into a regular city of China. And you probably read the news, like Apple Daily, like, the publisher was sentenced to prison, and now several high-level managers were also arrested and trialed. And I think the most what is here is like I think we all know it's bad, but why China is not afraid of doing this is because no matter how bad they are, what you can do, right? Like no matter, even if like 100% of Americans believe that the virus came from the lab in Wuhan, what are you going to do? You're still going to do business with China. Like Apple is still going to produce their iPhones in China. You still have your supply chains there. The Wall Street is still pulling money to China. And unless you really punish them, they are not afraid of what you say and what you criticize, what you know.
And that ties into the fact
actions.
And that ties into the fact that that the 2020 election was stolen and that China hacked into our system to change votes from Trump to Biden, because Trump would have done something. He would have he would have done something to make. In fact, he's asked for China to pay $10 trillion, I think, in damages.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Biden is sort of like, this was all, you see, he was connected. Him and his son were connected. They were blackmailed, I believe, by the Chinese government. There's my music. We're going to come back. Are you open to taking phone calls, Wynn?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll take phone calls when we come back. You can ask Wynn anything you like, and we'll be right back.
We're Diamond and Silk, and we love the Naked Truth Report.
Driving into Dallas and seeing the Texas School Book Depository looming in the distance was exciting. Too bad a murder of a president was the source of the excitement. Of course, I went to the 6th-floor sniper's nest. Now it is dressed as a movie set, and no one is permitted to look out the window and down on Elm Street. But I was more interested in where the rifle was found. You would think it was left in the sniper's nest. It wasn't. 2 Dallas police officers found it down the hallway next to the stairs hidden beneath boxes of books. Officer Seymour Weitzman wrote a splendid and detailed description of the rifle he found. It looks nothing like the 20-year-old Italian Mannlicher Carcano the Warren Commission says was found. The Warren Commission lawyer questioning Weitzman must have read his report, as he starts by questioning Weitzman's expertise as to rifles. Weitzman replied he was in the sporting goods business. Sporting goods in Texas means rifles, lots of rifles, all kinds of rifles. Weitzman's retort shut the lawyer up. I left the school book building heading toward the parking lot above Daley Plaza. I wanted to check out the 14-foot tower Lee Bowers, a switchman for Union Terminal, was standing on. Bowers told the Warren Commission of a vehicle moving slowly in front of his tower just before the president's motorcade arrived. The vehicle had out-of-state license plates, a Goldwater for President bumper sticker, mud caked up to the fenders, and a man speaking into a mic. Bowers also described 2 men standing behind a fence atop the grassy knoll, following intensely the motorcade's progress down Main Street. Asked if both men were in the same position at the time of the shots, Bowers replied the heavy-set middle-aged man was, but the younger man in the plaid shirt was in the bushes. Bowers was about to add something, but was cut off by the lawyer with another question. Lee Bowers would die 2 years later in a strange, unexplained car accident. I left Daley Plaza for the Oak Cliff section of Dallas and the house where Lee Oswald was renting a room. I parked in front, staring at the front door, letting history wash over me. Oswald, leaving work, rushed into the house, going directly to his room. Earlene Roberts, the housekeeper, told the Warren Commission a Dallas police car parked in front of the house, honked twice, then pulled away. Lee then ran out the door, grabbing his jacket. Dispatch had ordered all units to Daley Plaza except one, which was told to remain at large for any emergencies. That patrol unit was Officer Tippett's. Now, I don't know if that was Officer Tippett parked in front of the house, but I do know Officer Tippett had 20 minutes left to live. An interesting fact is Earlene Roberts was the sister of Bertha Cheeks, a local real estate investor. Jack Ruby, 4 days before the assassination, asked Bertha if she would be interested in investing in an upscale club Ruby had in mind. She declined. I wonder if Jack asked her if she knew of a room for rent for a friend of his. That shot in Dallas changed everything. There was a direct line from Dallas to open season on politicians and citizens to 9/11, and now permanent election fraud via computer manipulation. Where will it end? How will it end? I'm Michael Calder, the author of JFK versus CIA, and if interested in the details of President Kennedy's assassination, get the hardcover edition at Barnes & Noble. And be afraid.
You see, we've been dealing, when we know our history, we realize we've been dealing with the fact that the American government, the establishment, D.C., is not acting in the best interest of the American people. This has been going on for decades. I mean, they were even mad at Woodrow Wilson for getting us into World War I back then. He kind of like tricked us into it, so to speak. Yeah. Also, I want to make, this whole Juneteenth, or however you say it, I don't know. I hate how I don't even like the word. It sounds weird, right? June 10th or something like that. I wanted to say there are 4 organic documents that form the foundation of America. And one of them, one is the Northwest Ordinance. The other three is the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, and the Constitution. The Northwest Ordinance prohibited slavery in the 5 states. I think it's Wisconsin, northwest of the Ohio River, Wisconsin, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and parts of Minnesota, and what was the other one? I can't remember. But there were 5 states plus parts of Minnesota, that territory, which initially belonged to Great Britain, and it was part of Quebec. Jefferson, who wrote the Declaration of Independence, wanted to put in a clause in the Northwest Ordinance that would prohibit slavery in all states. And that was not ratified because one state, New Jersey, was the only state that voted, was the one state that didn't give him the majority, so that all states would prohibit slavery. The Northwest Ordinance was enacted by Congress in 1787. So you see. And also, Jefferson wanted to include in the Constitution that King George III was the one, he wanted to include this in the Constitution, he'd written it up, that King George III was the one that had imposed slavery upon America. So you see the folks that are taking down statues of Jefferson are bashing our founding fathers. They don't know our history fully. They don't understand all of our history. They understand maybe broad strokes, but they don't know the details. Well, details matter. It's important to know specifics. And this is why I'm disappointed. This is why we're disappointed in the left, because they're ignoramuses. They don't know what they're talking about. They cannot have a full conversation about anything intelligently because they're wrong. They wouldn't be taking down the statue of Jefferson if they knew that it was the intention of Jefferson to prohibit slavery in all of America back in 1787. Why don't I take a call now from Carlos? Welcome to the Naked Truth Report, Carlos.
Yes, good evening. Great program. Got a question for the your guest there.
Dr. Chen. Dr. Chen,
yeah. She mentioned North Carolina as being involved, I think, in the virus. Now, back when it started breaking out, I remember reading certain articles from good sources that mentioned North Carolina is the base for the virus, which was then transmitted or sent over as a transient point to Canada, and then from there to Wuhan. So you see, it doesn't surprise me if there was really cooperation between our scientific world here and their scientific world in China, because there's a history of that. The good guys, us, have always been colluding with the bad guys underneath the table, like when the Rockefeller Foundation here was doing eugenics experimentation with the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute of the Nazis way back then. The good guys cooperating with the bad guys. So I think there's a lot of that going on. A lot of and the point I'm trying to make is this. I think there's certain sources that want to point the finger directly at China, demonize it. And I think, I'm not defending China, okay? I'm against communism. It's a horrible and satanic ideology. But that could open the path for maybe a future military engagement with the Chinese, and I'm afraid of that.
Well, Dr. Chen, what do you think? Do you think that North Carolina was somehow had the virus at some point? Do you think that?
Oh, actually, the experiments were all done in Wuhan. The NIH, they gave the fundings to like Eco Health. You probably know the news story, the news. And Eco Health actually is that organization subcontracted to Wuhan, because in the United States we are not allowed to do this kind of gain of function research. It's against the law. And that's why these scientists, they collaborate with Wuhan, because in Wuhan, China has no such restriction. Actually, the Chinese government highly encourage this kind of research of making gain-of-function virus. And And we suspect it's likely they have some military purpose for that, although scientists may not be aware of this because this kind of research, it's double-sided. You can say, oh, we want to make this to make vaccine, but so far I have not seen any good vaccine made from Wuhan lab. They only made a virus. And also, you have to understand that in China, all these top research entities, all the big companies, they are tied with the government and they're tied with the military. And China have the national intelligence law that if the government asks you to do something in the name of national security, you have to obey the law. So basically, the Wuhan lab, definitely, they are tied with the Chinese military. It's already the reality. Actually, after the pandemic outbreak in January, immediately the lab was taken over by a Chinese military general, Chen Wei. She was a specialist on biowelfare. So it's already the reality. Everything done in this lab is connected with Chinese military. Although, not superficially, but of course, I think there are two problems here. Number one, the scientific field all over the world, in any country, from Canada to U.S., the scientists are very naive. They only know how to do research. They're not interested in politics. And they have been looking at the Wuhan lab the same as other labs all over the world. They're naive. They just say, oh, it's just research. It's for good purpose. And then maybe in the Wuhan lab, most of the researchers, they did not realize what they're doing, right? They just do what, the PIs, the directors told them to do. It's just research. They don't know their role in the big picture of biowelfare.
Right.
So, they're all naive. And number two, the U.S. funding agency, when they support such funding, they are not very clear where the money goes. And maybe they know. Maybe they figure out later. I believe definitely last spring when they had these meetings, you saw all these media release about their email exchange. I believe they definitely knew. Francis Collins and Anthony Fauci, they definitely know what happened, but they want to cover it up because they don't want to let people know that they made this mistake.
Yeah, and
that's why.
Yeah, I heard someone in the military say, Chinese military said that World War III will be fought with biological weapons.
I totally believe that.
Yeah, I believe that too.
Because actually in China, they have been promoting this. When I was in China, they always say, we have this, we can have this chemical, all these kind of weapons. And we thought it was great, when I was in China. Of course, that's all Communist Party propaganda, right? As long as you can kill your enemy, everything's fine. We always thought that. That was the propaganda. Every Chinese thought that was right. If you can fight, you can win the war, right? That is official promotion of the Chinese government. And of course, they only do it in Chinese language. In the English news world, you never see anything like that. You only see the nice words praising the Communist Party.
You see, we're in trouble, folks. Biden can't handle the Chinese. China is conducting warfare on us biologically. Okay, let's take a call now from Susan in Orange County. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report, Susan.
Hi, Kathleen. This is Susan from Orange County. I actually remember hearing Dr. Wen Chen on your show. It was last July 26th. Actually, I wrote it down. So anyway, this is a great show tonight. Very happy she's there. I wanted to say two things. One, I have some neighbors who were actually born in China. The mother was, and she had taken a trip with her daughter to China in 2019, and they were going to be returning in December, but they returned in November. And when I saw them, I said, "Oh, I thought you were coming back in December." And she said, "Oh, something was going down. Something was happening." And at that time, it sounded like maybe they told us we had to get a flight out right now. So she said, I thought something was happening, with the airlines. So we had to hurry up and get a flight out so we could get home to the States. And then all this happened. So my question to Wen Chen is it possible that they knew they were going to be letting this out, at that time? Because when she came back in November, she didn't even know until all this stuff started happening. And then the thing about number two, Dr. Fauci. I remember hearing him say, in Trump's presidency, there will be a pandemic. Kathleen, do you know anything about that? Because he said it in 2017.
Okay, Susan, thank you. Listen, Wen, do you think that China knew before October, around October?
Well, what I can tell you is that Chinese Xinhua agency reported on September 19th, September 18th, 2019. That was 3 months before the pandemic. Wuhan had a emergency response drill for novel coronavirus. It was interesting, right? It was the same name as novel coronavirus now. So, and also there was one research done, they checked the cell phone signals, it's public record they can get. They found for 2 weeks in October 2019, the Wuhan lab, the biosafety lab, they had absolutely no cell phone signal for a whole 2 weeks. So that means the lab was probably shut down for 2 weeks. So I suspect, they probably knew there was something going on, but they decided to keep silent, not to say a thing.
Oh my God!
They probably had some prediction about that.
This is very disturbing. It's frightening, folks. We got to get Trump back. Let's hope Mike Lindell comes through with his lawsuit to the Supreme Court, because there's no way that Biden can deal with what's going down. Everything's a joke to him. It's like he doesn't know what's happening at all. He's not interested. He doesn't know. It's frightening, actually. We're on our own unless we get Trump in the office, right? Now I'll take a call from Pascal in Santa Monica. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Hi. Thank you so much. I want to thank both of you for all the great work you're doing, and at least we can still have our voices. But I wanted to tell Dr. Chen that the conservatives in the United States, like the younger people, the liberals, they're brainwashed, not the conservatives. The liberals, and they believe all the lies. They're not critical thinkers. Even Snoops, Catherine, Snoops and Reddick and all of these different truth-finding agencies, in quotations, they really lie. And anyway, my question, though, I just wanted to say it doesn't look great for us in America because of that, but I wanted to ask the Dr. Chen, do you think there could be any movement in China, any resistance either within the military or the average people to stand up to the Communist Party? My guess is they're so scared they wouldn't do anything. But is there any chance that they'll take their country back?
Definitely. In China, there has been a big human rights movement since 2004. And I think that started because I think that originated from the Falun Gong movement in 1999. It was a meditation group that's persecuted by the Chinese government. And then they held, every day they went out to protest for whole 2 or 3 years. Most of them, were taken away by the government and disappeared. But that scene lasting for 3 years, made Chinese people, greatly encouraged Chinese people. And in 2005, Chinese people started to have human rights lawyers, Gao Zhishen, and later on, you probably saw some news report about Chen Guangcheng, the blind lawyer, on the news. And Chinese people also started to bypass the Great Firewall on Internet, thanks to the free softwares written by several companies in the U.S. run by the Falun Gong practitioners. They have been providing softwares for Chinese people to bypass Great Firewall to awake them from the propagandas. And definitely, especially during this pandemic, after the Chinese government punished the whistleblowers, and one of them died, Li Wenliang died last February, died from coronavirus, because the hospital did not allow him to wear a face mask and punish him. He actually had to openly apologize the doctors had to openly apologize on Chinese TV on January 1st, 2020, that there was no virus, the coronavirus was not human-to-human transmission. And then Wuhan had a big banquet ceremony, celebrate Chinese New Year. That was how the outbreak came later, right? But when that doctor died in February because of the coronavirus, there was a huge tsunami on Chinese internet calling for freedom of expression, because everyone realized when you have no freedom of expression, eventually everyone became a victim, because virus, it's there. It doesn't matter whether you support human rights or not support human rights. Eventually, you can be a target if you cannot hear the words from doctors and the nurses. And China also has this huge trend of quitting the Communist Party. And many Chinese want to quit the party, but they can't quit from the party itself. Because if you tell the party that I want to quit the party, or say I don't want to join the party, you can be immediately arrested. So in 2004, volunteers in San Diego started a website, and Chinese people can send their statements through the software to bypass the Great Firewall and post their statement on this website. Say, I want to quit the Communist Party. I want to quit the Youth League of the Communist Party. That's for the high school students. And or I want to quit the Young Pioneer of the Communist Party. That's for middle schoolers or elementary school kids. And then they can get a digital certificate with a unique serial number. And this is actually accepted by the U.S. Immigration Office as an official document of quit the party. So when a Chinese citizen, when anyone become naturalized into become a U.S. citizen, they have to answer standard questions. Say, have you ever joined the Nazi, ISIS, or Communist Party? And its answer was yes, the person cannot become a U.S. citizen. Then they have to submit this digital certificate from that website with their serial number, say they quit the party at a certain year, certain date, and this is certificate. And our immigration office actually accept that. And on this website, the number I saw recently was 379 million Chinese quit the Chinese Party or the Youth League or the Young Pioneers.
379 million?
Million, yes.
Can you?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of people.
Almost everyone is required to join the Youth League or Young Pioneer. If you are in elementary or middle school, you must wear these red scarves symbolizing you are a Young Pioneer of the Communist Party. And in the high school, most of the students are required to join the Youth League. It's very much like a Youth League of Nazi, right? And then in college, the most outstanding students would be recruited into the Communist Party. And if you want to work for the government, and in China, usually there's not much private company jobs, most of the jobs.
I have to take a break. I have to go now. Thank you, Dr. Wen Chen. I appreciate it. I'll have you back on to give us an update, because I wanted to ask you something else and I forgot, but I appreciate you being here. Thank you, Dr. Wen Chen. I'll see you next week. I'm going to talk to you about my course at Hillsdale College. Yeah. See you next week.